Hi, I'm Iksan, and I review stuff. And recently I've been finding myself being drawn to and kind of exploring, somewhat hesitantly I might add, the interesting subgenre of war metal, for which I blame fellow YouTuber and extremely nice metalhead with a deep sexy voice, Gauntlet, entirely. If you don't know what war metal is and would like a primer on it, why don't you click the link that should have appeared up there and go check out his A Bastardized History of War Metal video. That was my jump off point after all. But to briefly summarize, war metal is a musical genre that is derived from the sound put forward by the Brazilian thrash band Sarcófago with their 1986 debut album INRI, INRI, or Jesus of Nazareth, goddammit. The band took thrash style riffing and married it to guttural intermittent growling and blast beats across the board. And about 3 years later, fellow thrash band Blasphemy released Blood Upon the Altar, which formed the blueprint for this entire genre. From what I have heard, war metal is an extremely reductive subgenre that is a crossbred abomination between black metal, death metal, and thrash metal, at the very least primarily. The drumming consists mostly of blast beats, the guitars are usually fast-paced power chords, the vocals are usually indecipherable in whatever they're saying or claiming to be saying, and the entire genre grounds itself in a decidedly lo-fi and on purpose extremely raw sound. What results from a combination of these elements is an extremely, and I do mean very, extremely aggressive, rabid, angry, really pissed off fucking assault on your senses. I think, as per the moniker, the genre aims to imitate the sounds of an actual battlefield while still containing enough musicality to escape being labeled as noise. And in my quest to find out more about what was going on with this genre outside of what was already known, such as Blasphemy, Proclamation, Conqueror, Revenge, Diocletian, or one of my first examples, Heresiarch, I headed over to Bandcamp, as I usually do. And as a result of this, I have come across a bunch of little demos and EPs that I wish to share with you. Now, I'm going to be doing this a little differently in that I'm not going to go into all that much detail, because how much detail can I tell you about a 7-minute EP that you can just listen to in the time that you are sitting there listening to me? So I'm going to do this quickly and briefly and Gauntlet style, one by one. So let's do this. As always, there will be Bandcamp links in the description of this video leading to each one of these releases so you can listen for yourselves. And since most of these releases are on a pay-what-you-want basis, I highly encourage you to consider supporting the artist. And just keep in mind, these are in no particular order. I just arranged the pictures in a certain manner, so that's the order I'm going in. This is not a top 6. Number 1. Annihilation Hammer, Apocalypse Wolves. Annihilation Hammer goes for what I term as a total sound, in that while it is possible to break it down to individual elements, doing so would just be doing the music a disservice and would be missing the point. What they bring is intended to be a total package, and no part should be separated from the whole. They bring to you a writhing mass of snakes in a deep cave somewhere in which you are probably storing stolen art or some shit. The music consists mostly of a reverb-rich, extremely muddy, extremely bass-heavy production, full of churning old-school death metal style riffs, a fat-ass, like really thick-ass bass, drums that seem to be stuck somewhere in a mid-tempo blast beat throughout the length of this 2-track demo, and really cavernous, really low-register, and extremely reverb-rich vocals. So in terms of how they present themselves, they are closer to old-school death metal, but still have more than just a little of war metal in their veins. Number 2. Cloniculum, I hope I pronounced that right, Berserker. Berserker seems to exist just to trigger the debate of whether war metal and bestial black metal are two separate things that are distinguished by very clear markers, or they are part of the same package, just incorporating different influences into it. Cloniculum's sound is extremely raw, really lo-fi, and as a result of this has lots and lots of serrated teeth. The vocals are reverb rich and have been run through a delay, so you know basically what to expect. They take elements of this cavernous type of sound that you hear a lot in, let's say, in bands like Blue Hummingbird from the Left, for instance, and marry it to the more bestial black adjacent, really highly aggressive and black metal influenced riffs. They're not above a little experimentation, however, as exemplified by the final track of this EP, Total Extermination, which opens up with a really tasteful rendition of a military marching beat. So I would say keep an eye on this band because they seem to be headed towards something monstrous and something very, very nice. Number 3, Terror Oath, self-titled. Terror Oath is perhaps the least straightforward war metal-like band on this list. They're included mainly because 1, they're fucking awesome, and 2, I encountered them through the label of war metal, so I'm counting them in, and it's my video anyway, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Terror Oath comes across as more of a black and death metal or straightforward black death band than a bona fide war metal band that they incorporate enough influences from a rather primitive form of black metal into their sound to count at least war metal adjacent. A really cavernous sort of expansive production under Black Death style churning, furious, nigh apocalyptic riffs, really low vocals, highly aggressive drumming, and for some interesting reason the ride cymbals panned hard right while the rest of the drums sit really back in the mix. That's one production choice I don't really get. Terror Oath craft their sound from several influences, and they use these influences as the forefront of their tracks. They go from Black Death to old school death metal to even including a bit of death sludge with just a smidge of doom in the final track, Desolation's Command, with a K because of course it is. What makes Terror Oath interesting, however, is that the totality of their sound that incorporates all of their influences can also be pulled in the direction of any of these influences if the band wishes to explore that kind of territory while still belonging to a cohesive whole. If you have been watching my videos for some time, you know that I value cohesion a lot, and as such, that makes Terror Oath a band definitely to check out. Number 4, Vermin Scourge, Triumphant Savagery. I mean, with a name like Vermin Scourge, what were you expecting in terms of music? Cut from the cloth of bands like Conqueror, Revenge, and from the noisier aspects of borderline just rhythmic noise bands like Caveman Cult, Vermin Scourge actually strike a sound closer to Bestial Black on this, their latest EP, than they did in their far more dynamic previous demo, Barbaric Intolerance. Triumphant Savagery is triumphant, and it is definitely savage, featuring a really sharp, really raw sound that seems to have devolved, if anything, from their previous releases, and it will feed your bloodlust plenty. With 5 tracks and 16 minutes of material, Triumphant Savagery is one of the most primitive types of bludgeoning that you are likely to receive on this side of metal. But I just would like to point out that the only reason why you see 2 Bandcamp links in that description for Vermin Scourge is because between this and the previous demo, Barbaric Intolerance, I think Barbaric Intolerance is the superior product. While the uncompromising brutality and the rawer sound of Triumphant Savagery is much appreciated, it does feature a far more uniform sound, and the riffs from song to song sound way too similar. Barbaric Intolerance had far more variety and was a little bit more refined, I guess, than... I don't know. I mean, why the fuck would you be looking for war metal if refinement, nuance, and all the fine things in life was what you were looking for? But nevertheless, I just liked Barbaric Intolerance better. Number 5. Band name I'm sure I can't pronounce. Album name I'm sure I can't pronounce. I think it's Wearg. 4 tracks, ambient intro, ambient outro, so more like 2 tracks in terms of just pure music. But this, even though I'm not able to pronounce it correctly, is one of the best EPs, one of the best short form releases that I have heard that is on this list. This thing came out in 2017, and I really hope that the band was locked away somewhere, perfecting their craft and preparing to come up with something that is just going to devastate all of us. Like, I'm not even going to try to describe it, just click it, listen to it. You are not going to be disappointed. Number 6, Iksan, I think. Satanistic Fortification Over Balance. Satanic Fortification Over Balance is one of my favorite releases as of late, mainly because Iksan seems to be a band that was tailor-made for me. For one, they wear their thrash influences on their sleeve and put the riffs front and center rather than letting them melt away into the totality of their sound. 2, their drum sound is excellent and wonderfully raw. 3, their production is well balanced while keeping plenty of the lo-fi bite, still having enough room to have some degree of refinement. And I know I just said, why the fuck would you be listening to war metal if refinement is what you're after, but I can have my preferences. 3, none of this actually means that the band had to sacrifice one iota of their aggression. Far from it, the sound is rendered far more aggressive because of this. 4, even though the vocals seem to have experienced zero production on them and come with a hail of static buzz, they only contribute to the overall aggression of the record. 5, at times the vocals don't really pretend to be singing any kind of lyrics, which really adds on to the brainless, almost mindless, overbearing type aggression that the band is actually portraying. And finally, 6, this is some of the fastest, some of the best, and some of the most dynamic drumming I have seen in this genre. Like, this is just heavenly, with lots of really fast D beats and intricate cymbal work thrown in. So, as you might have guessed, you should definitely check this one out. And that's it. That was my list. So, what did you think of it? Do you like any of the bands that I have mentioned? Have you listened to any of these? And if you haven't, the fuck are you still listening to me for? Go down there, click them, listen to them, and like I said, consider supporting the artist. If you like my content, like, comment, and subscribe, as it always helps. And as always, until next time, it's Hæðen. Peace out. It just occurred to me that closing a video about war metal with peace out might sound a little hypocritical, but